are in the reading room in our new renovated space, and I like to think of this space collectively, the gallery and reading room, as kind of a history lab. So that can be a place where people come to engage with the papers as researchers, or in the gallery space as tourists, as the general public, just wanting to learn and hear a little bit more about the legacies of Bob and Elizabeth Dole and how they relate to our broader experience today. With me right now is Sarah Gard. She's our senior archivist and has been working with the Elizabeth Dole papers, as well as the Bob Dole papers for many years. So Sarah, what do you have here?
I've got some boxes from the Department of Transportation section of Senator Elizabeth Dole's papers. This is the first section that we chose to process and catalog and make available to the public. So I've just brought out some cool things for us to look at today.
Cool. And we obtained Senator Elizabeth Dole's papers actually over a couple of years ago, right? She gave us the first gift in 2017. And about how much material is that?
So she gave us several hundreds of boxes from all aspects of her career. And so it took us several years to figure out exactly what we had, doing like a quick inventory of everything, and then deciding which section to go with. So we ended up processing about 80 boxes of just Department of Transportation records.
Okay. Do you do this all on your own? How does it work? What does it take to catalog and process a collection?
Well, the short answer is no, I did not do it by myself. So we acquired her papers a few years ago, and it took us a little bit of time just to do a quick inventory over everything, and then to go into planning mode about where we would start and what our process would be for that. So we chose to start with her Department of Transportation records, and I worked with 2 graduate students for a little less than a year, and we worked on processing and cataloging about 80 boxes of the several hundreds that Senator Elizabeth sent to us, and transformed that into some raw files into these nice orderly boxes that you see here.
So what kind of materials will researchers find when they get into the Department of Transportation papers?
So we organized it into a few different categories. The biggest part of the collection are speeches. So as Secretary of Transportation, Senator Elizabeth Dole had a lot of events that she attended. So we've got speeches from every single event, and they are well organized. And I love the speeches because they've got her handwriting all over them, and you can really see the speech writing process for each individual event.
Oh, that's really cool. So there's like a personal touch. It's not just office paper, it sounds like.
Yes, it's more exciting to look at. Although we do have office papers, we've also got a lot of schedules just from her day-to-day responsibilities, which are interesting to see. You can see what time she was picked up in the morning and what time she was supposed to get home at night. Very long days. And we have a lot of like subject files on like airports and seat belts and safety and railroads. And those are interesting, but a little tedious. Those would be probably of greatest interest to our researchers. And then like briefing books. So she would often have to go to Congress to testify about the budget or different pieces of legislation that were transportation related.
What are some of your favorite things? Does anything come to mind, like favorite documents or funny stories or anything that you might have experienced while working with this collection?
As we were processing, we noticed like a lot of allusions to different like anecdotes that she would often tell in speeches, and they weren't always written out because she was supposed to speak in a natural way. So it would just say like grapefruit story. I still haven't figured out exactly what the grapefruit story is, but maybe that is a job for one of our researchers or a future exhibit someday. So I also love the speeches because she'll tell little jokes about her relationship with Senator Bob Dole, and you really do get a sense of like who they are as people. So those are probably some of my favorite pieces of the collection.
You mentioned some of the subjects that are covered in the Department of Transportation papers. Do you have any, if you're thinking about undergrads or graduate research, like what types of degrees or research interests might this collection particularly apply to?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see who ends up using it, if they are drawn from a specific background, because the papers have only been available for public use for about a month. We've only had, I think, 2 people have fill requests for 2 people out of the papers. But I think anyone who's interested in transportation history, a wide variety of modes. So it can encompass, air travel, railroads, like even just like your everyday cars or trucks. But then she did a lot with even like space travel. So that's some more interesting and unexpected things that would be in the collection. So I think if there are transportation scholars, they would be interested. People who just probably study safety would be interested in the collection.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned to me in talking about another topic that might be covered in a certain way is leadership or women in leadership. And you've mentioned to me before maybe that there's evidence of a mentorship program that she started in the DOT.
Yes, so it's referred to, I think, as the 10-point program, sometimes the 9-point, but I think they added a point as they went along. As she was newly confirmed as Secretary of Transportation, she found out how many women worked in the department and what levels in their careers they were. And she found that there was a very low percentage of women that worked at the department. And so she undertook several initiatives to bring more women in, to support them, mentor them. And so the program is really neat. It helped them, of course, in their current positions, but did allow them to kind of transfer and shadow in other departments to see, what else they would be interested in. And this was also at a time in the 1980s when women were entering the workforce more, and people were really trying to figure out how to support women participating in the workforce.
So you've pulled some things for us to look at today, and we've got one here on the table. Why is this one something that you like so much?
So this is materials from an event she did at a women's transportation seminar. And I just love that we've got her speech cards that she took to the event and used to give her speech, and they've got her handwriting on them, so you can see like last minute changes. And I think that's just a special part of any archival collection, is seeing the person's,
their thought process.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. When she was nominated to replace the outgoing Secretary of Transportation, Elizabeth Dole received all kinds of like congratulation letters on her nomination. And this is a sweet one that I found from the president and executive director of the Girl Scouts. And they were especially excited because Elizabeth Dole is the first woman Secretary of Transportation. And then also the way things were structured at the time, the U.S. Coast Guard fell under the Department of Transportation. So Elizabeth Dole is also the first woman to head a branch of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much for bringing up materials from the collection and talking with us about the Department of Transportation papers. These are newly open. They just became open this spring. And so we look forward to when you're able to come on site and use the collection, we can do that. We also do have, with a limited amount of availability, to do a little bit of remote reference and research support while we're all hunkered down in our homes. So if you have any questions about the Dole archives or the Dole, Elizabeth Dole Department of Transportation papers, you can check out our website and email us at dolearchives@ku.edu. And so we're really excited to add this collection to the department and the assets of the Dole Institute and learn more about Senator Elizabeth Dole's legacy.